I was a ballet dancer. So I did not intend to be an actress. I didn't even think of it. I didn't even dream of it. So, but when you're a ballet dancer, you play a role as well. So I always heard when I was a dancer that one of my qualities on stage were the interpretation of the part. But then I met an agent who believed that I was going to be an actress, and I thought for many years that she was crazy. Since I've had a habit to work hard to obtain any kind of result as a dancer, I didn't think I could become an actress without working for 10 years to be able to do it. So she called me and says there's a film, they're looking for a blonde girl who speaks English. At the time I couldn't speak one word of English. And I said, okay, nothing to lose, I try. So I learned my lines phonetically. I went to the casting and it worked.
Canon Films, the home of high-powered, high-voltage motion picture entertainment. With the screen's biggest spectacles, brightest stars, and boldest lineup of explosive entertainment. We're taking motion picture excitement over the edge and your box office over the top. We're Canon Films, and we're dynamite.
In outer space, Cannon unleashes a force more evil than the world had ever imagined. You kidding me? Tits and pussy never hurt anyone. LIfeforce was a production from the Cannon Group and distributed in the US by Cannon and TriStar Pictures. This day, it's one of Cannon's most popular movie releases called sci-fi films. What makes this film different from most Cannon films was Cannon was served up with a hearty budget of $25 million. This was definitely quite the change of pace from the low-budget movies that they were producing at the time. This was their attempt at producing a blockbuster in the heart of the blockbuster era, which was around the late 70s and early 80s, when the blockbuster formula had been introduced with such films as Star Wars and Jaws. Sure, Cannon took a big swing at the bat, but did they connect? It was more like a box office letdown, only bringing in $4.2 million on opening day weekend, and finally grossing just a petty $11.6 million. This, however, also marks Tobe Hooper's last hurrah in Hollywood. Literally, when the Golan and Globus brought Tobe Hooper in, they signed him for a 3-picture movie deal, which included Invaders from Mars and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 was perceived to be more like a parody than the first that had an Evil Dead vibe to it that didn't gel well with the audiences. Nor did the audience appreciate the charm that Hooper put into the remake of Invaders from Mars that at times had some gross and scary moments in it. LIfeforce was co-written by Don Jacoby, whom was a common screenwriter of exploitation films, but a lot of the alien sci-fi look was courtesy of Dan O'Bannon, original screenwriter of Alien. The film was based off of Colin Wilson's 1976 novel, Space Vampires. Hooper worked extensively with Dan O'Bannon to make several changes from the novel. One of the changes was setting it in the present day versus in the future, and also tying in Halley's Comet, which at the time was set to pass Earth in 1986. It's a great tie-in to answer the question as to what could happen when the comet passes by. That the Cannon Group may have created a curse. It's kind of a shame because when you looked at it, Cannon did everything right here. They hired the right cinematographers, visual effects artists, makeup artists, music, the whole 9 yards. So what went wrong? Now the problem with Cannon is they always seem to run into a situation as to what stance they're going to take. In this instance, the stance is, are we going to do a sci-fi film on space vampires who literally French kiss your soul away, or are we going to do a movie about space zombies? At the end of the day, Cannon decided, well, we are already invested $25 million, and the thought of calling this space vampire sounds cheap. So let's change it to something more ominous. This movie is so confusing, I don't know if I should call it Space Nudist or The Walking Shriveled. Plus, your main star, Steve Railsback, wasn't really a household name. It was basically your classic background type actor with 100 acting credits to his name. He was better known as starring as Charles Manson in a TV miniseries. Plus, this film is overloaded with British talent, too much British talent that many film audiences in 1985 just weren't too familiar with, such as Peter Firth and Frank Finlay. Yes, the movie introduced us to the debut of Sir Patrick Stewart, but it would be only a year later when he would connect with audiences worldwide as Captain Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek The Next Generation. True, Matilda May is going to be forever etched into our teenage minds forever, but even though Matilda May is the newest Cannon cover girl, I think she's only on screen for 6 minutes. 6 minutes of jaw-dropping nudity, but oddly walking around like the Terminator in a way. But boy, with her ballerina body, she sure has got more bounce to the ounce than Arnold does. Granted, she is a French actress who appeared in many art house French films. Prior to the fact that she can't speak a word of English is fine. She carries herself quite well. So for her to carry herself in an English-speaking role, she had to learn her lines phonetically. And even though she has a total of screen time of 7 minutes, she had to literally spend about 6 months learning a significant amount of English in a short amount of time. Cannon had to audition well over 1,000 actresses because they were looking for the girl with the perfect tits. Heck, if you just wanted an 80s B-queen with a big mouth and some big bazookas, Sybil Danning would have done just fine. Matilda May described Tobe Hooper as being introverted and shy. Well, if you're walking out with porn-style tits and bush, I'd be pretty awestruck and unable to move too. Let's face it, Most, if not all, Cannon films are car crash films. This, by far, is the Rolls-Royce of a car crash film, with a big budget of $25 million spent on it. Inflation-wise, that would equate to $63,733,736.06. We're talking Michael Bay territory here. Heck, it would even have actors suspended 40 feet in the air before Tobe Hooper finally figured it out and only captured a few seconds worth of footage. Got to the point that even being in this movie made these astronaut actors so sick they literally puked inside of their masks. From Tobe Hooper struggling to find the perfect beat to waiting for Matilda Bay to get on her own 2 feet, a 17-week shoot extended into a 22-week shoot. The Cannon just ran out of money, and many of the cast ended up working pro bono. Thank you for Cannon for your intergalactic opening to remind us, hey, this is Star Wars. My, oh my, are we treated to a cacophony of trumpets and horns with asteroids flying for 20 fucking minutes. Sorry, Cannon, but this blows. You are not John Williams, and Tobe Hooper is not George Lucas. Get over yourselves. Okay. You have epic music right now. You can stop playing your brass off. We get it all right. Let's move on. The movie begins with this spaceship called the Churchill. It's approaching Halley's Comet.
Their mission, to intercept and study the comet bearing Dr. Edmund Halley's name.
To investigate. You're kidding me? A comet? Something that exists for a mere blink of an eye?
Churchill is the first spacecraft equipped with the Nerva engine.
One of the things they were boasting about was how the Churchill was outfitted with this Nerva engine that allows it to travel long distance. But honestly, it looks more like one giant solar panel.
9th, 2:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The HMS Churchill, outward bound.
Nice to know it leaves a solar imprint of using up all the energy from the sun. See, that's why space exploration can't have nice things. Upon the Churchill's exploration of Halley's Comet, they came across an unknown alien craft that's 50 meters long.
Radar states 150 miles.
150 miles what?
Length.
150 miles long? What's 150 miles long?
Honestly, it looks like one. When they reach the alien vessel, they try to contact Earth. They try to contact NASA because they have a problem.
Sorry, Commander. Everything's being swamped by the Coma winds. We can't get anything back to base.
How long's the blackout period?
All the way.
Oh, we certainly have a problem, all right. A bunch of Londoners who are on the wrong side of the map, mixing up NASA with the United Kingdom Space Agency called UKSA. So Spaceman Steve wants to board this ship due to the reason that this ship is probably not going to return for another 76 years, and we would be long dead, so let's do this shit. What we get is 4 astronauts performing a perfectly good Ridley Scott alien ripoff of entering the derelict spaceship.
I suppose this thing came from? Was it exploring the comet?
It's a derelict, whatever it is. Stand by, Churchill.
It gets even more strange as how that it's not that they enter the spaceship, but how the visual effects department confuses our naked eye, that we, for a minute, get lost in what we are watching.
Copy. We have you going in.
Churchill? Looks like some sort of giant artery.
It looks like a cross between a cartoon and an animated movie. They enter the ship, and finally, it is similarly organic to the engineer's spaceship in Alien, as we are traveling down the same alien spaceship artery into the strangely familiar. Honestly, it looked more like it was traveling down a sphincter.
Like some sort of giant artery.
So they enter in this massive room to reveal hundreds of its giant bat corpses just floating around. From bunk beds to bat beds. Well, I can appreciate the decor, although bats hate the lower bunk.
They look like bats. Giant bats.
Next thing you know, these guys are really getting all horny, like over these bat creatures to bring back as a specimen. Personally, I find this to be one big load of guano.
We'll bag this one. Take it with us.
We're deploying the specimen bag.
The specimen bag, they must deploy their specimen bag. Really? Looks more like a fishing net. You're going to need a bigger net. So as they're about to bag the specimens, the umbrella part of this pod starts to open that looks more like a big giant anus opening. Our space boys are all lubed up and switching to glide as they all appear in a trance or something, but I call it a chronic erection as they notice 3 naked bodies all perfectly preserved in crystals in suspended animation.
Something's happening to me. What's wrong with Miwa? What's wrong?
Nice to know $20 million of the film budget went into this Superman plastic plexiglass-looking Fortress of Solitude you got going on there. Railsback goes up to Space Chick and is just staring at her space orbs.
I'd say she's perfect. I've been in space for 6 months, and she looks perfect to me.
Hey, unicorns equals horny horses. It's the law of the jungle.
Dear Bridge, what's wrong?
What's wrong?
Don't act so innocent, folks. Because you are going to find that making you horny and making you smile, these are 2 of Matilda May's favorite things in the movie. Could you imagine if you were in space for 6 months and hadn't had any action, and then you saw that? I'm sure he was just going bam, bam, firing off those cannons. Hopefully, that spacesuit is recycle-free and combustible to break down bodily semen fluids. Then, 30 days later, at the politically incorrect NASA European Space Center, they are trying to reach Churchill that has been out of contact with them for some time, but is approaching Earth and is off course.
I hope it's just their communications.
Churchill, come in. This is mission control.
So, as part of a rescue effort, they send in the spaceship Columbia up to intercept the Churchill. I admit we're presented with a pretty cool space boarding scene where they do this very careful airlocking procedure and then they dock and board the ship and notice a fire thing happen inside. It's kind of eerie. It's kind of strange. I'm sure it would remind you all of the Star Trek Nemesis movie when they get inside the Borg ship. The Churchill's interior is eerily similar as it looks dark and completely gutted as it was ravaged by substantial fire damage. They discover torch bodies floating around and are trying to retrieve the spaceship's flight recordings to investigate what went wrong.
Columbia, they're all dead.
Then the Columbia retrieval team stumble upon the naked crystal humanoids. Don't we miss them, even though we are not horny? When the Columbia space crew reaches to retrieve the black box that contains the flight recorder, it almost looks like one giant VHS tape. Ooh, are you sure that is the flight recorder? Or if you stumble upon what we like to call VHS roulette. It's a very dangerous game, and your professional careers are all at risk. Is it porn? Or is it grandma's birthday? Play at your own risk. We then return back to Earth as we are treated to a bunch of British tight assholes, bitching about the ship's cargo and how the crystals opened on their own.
Did you x-ray the crystal cases?
We're not certain they're crystal.
The casings are not metallic. I'm not even sure they're organic.
I don't know that I'm qualified to pass judgment on alien death.
You would agree that they're less alive than we are.
You stuffed shirts may be dead inside, but these space nudists are still horny. What can I say? Roses are red, violets are blue. All of their naughty thoughts all involve you. Not to mention, All of these consenting viewpoints of news reports calling Halley's Comet are a harbinger of evil. No, they are all just a delicate flower. A very fucked up, needy, horny, delicate little flower. My God, she's got nipples the size of a Bisquick pancake. Okay, for the perverts just tuning in, now is not the time for a maple syrup massage. As this is going on, a board member doctor is watching on a security video. Oh, this just gets more slurmier. What is his name? Doctor, I want a lot of vagina? Doctor gets down to the room before the guard is staggering about as a big ball of electrical storm erupts inside. Wow, I had no idea that giving her a girl boner could get so stimulating. All right, enough with the fantasy. Let's talk some reality canon. Anything worth obtained from the outer reaches of space is going to be contained within 80 doors and closely monitored with guards upon guards. She's going to be in an airlocked room that will detect any changes in temperature that will be as secure as Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible breaking into the INS headquarters. Here they have 4 glass partitions of this guy walking through a regular glass door while walking through a 5th glass door where the female humanoid is being held at. Half full. I'm sorry, I'm trying to see the humor in your lack of common sense, security, and safety. NASA medical board member enters in and finds the other guard staggering about and grabs the guard to reveal a zombie corpse. Okay, desiccated corpses are cool. Nothing like shriveled-looking mummies that look nothing like the person they were supposed to be. As this is happening, Space Girl is looking to the other guy with a come-hither look as she sucks it to him.
Use my body.
By the time the doctor enters the room, he finds the drained board member as Space Woman tries to do the Jedi mind lip-locking trick on him. She ends up draining him, but only slightly. Ha! Somebody must have put out.
She did that.
Then another guy watches another guy getting drained by Dr. Emmett L. Brown. Now that's 1.21 gigawatts of gay lip-locking magic. How can that old man generate that kind of power? No, it can't be done. It can't be. As she leaves, the NASA facility is trying to gather all the security guards to stop her. These comprise mostly of the most inept guards whose main priorities of passing time are completing crossword puzzles and eating sandwiches. Either they're useless or have a colossal amount of shit in their pants. Space Girl is able to briskly walk past one security guard who doesn't do anything. What's the matter? Did you confuse your hearing aid mold for a jelly donut again? Tisk, tisk, tisk. More security guards continue to pursue her as she Darth Vader chokes both of them. While lightning zapping the other guy while rubbing her foot real fast on the carpet. It looks like she ran the static shock audible. Ooh, I guess she knows how to conduct herself in tight spots. All the while, making her escape by exploding all the pane glass windows to make her venture outside. Well, NASA was going to hire her. She had a good resume. Great features, but as a space vampire, they just can't see her working here. For Matilda Bay fans, honestly, it's going to be tough to see herself working in this canon film. You may want to get your glasses because she almost becomes a vanishing act. Now you see her, now you don't. What's even more overwhelming is how we are literally force-fed into an onslaught of new characters every fucking second. 1 minute there are 5 new people, the next 10 more people. Please keep us in tune with the main characters. Let's keep it simple for once, canon. Please spare us the fucking extraneous bullshit.
What's that mean?
They questioned the surviving guards as to how she was able to overpower them. One of them responds in saying it was an overwhelming feminine presence they have ever seen. It was so sexual, I had a loss of control.
Yes, overwhelmingly so.
The fuck you say? You were horn-dogging it. Don't lie to me.
No. Yeah.
One of the doctors returns to reveal that the flight recorder on the Churchill was erased.
Yes, overwhelmingly so.
Which proves without a doubt the copy protection on VHS can easily be defeated with Scotch tape.
We don't know. Unfortunately, the condition of the bodies make an accurate count impossible.
He then has to excuse himself because he is feeling nauseous. The good doctor must enjoy morning sickness so much, he thought he would just embrace the whole experience. After all, this is an alien knockoff movie that causes everyone to look like a domestic violence victim. The Dr. Emmett L. Brown, or Dr. Death, then dives into how he studied death and explains to the Colonel about the life force and how the creatures are vampires.
Could be described that way, yes. I mean, in a sense, we're all vampires. We drain energy from other life forms. The difference is one of degree.
No, them picturing you naked is the most productive thing they have done all day in order to get you to join up with their nudist coven of soul-sucking lip lockers. Later, the army is put in charge of watching over the 2 remaining humanoids as one of the army guard is commenting on how they don't look dead to me. That's until the whole room explodes as the male vampires stand up as if they were like the master race of Aryan Vampire Brotherhood. Now, I'm a heterosexual male. I will have to admit these Calvin Klein looking space vampires were handsome as hell. We get into an interesting scene almost out of the film Predator, where the army rapid fires into the vampires that are literally standing there like Tony Montana, taking their fucking bullets. When that doesn't work, they throw grenades at them until they explode. Aren't we all experiencing life at a rate of several what the fucks per hour? Dr. Death tries to investigate the blown-up vampires and declares we can't perform an autopsy on them.
I would like to examine the guard.
Have they started the autopsy on the guard yet?
Remember, things are never so bad that their logic can't get any worse. The zombie guard lip locks with the doctor. It makes no sound, but rather like this odd redub of cross between 2 bears having sex or a toilet being unclogged. This story is already filled with so many dry flakes that the plot is coming down with dandruff.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if we're seeing a pattern here.
We then have to cut to a park where 2 guys discover a Muppet-like corpse that they were hoping to catch to see some lesbo action.
We thought they might be, well, you know. Yes.
So they see Matilda Bay and thought they were going to see some scissoring, and they thought they would stick around.
We angled on back to see if maybe we could, you know, see him doing something.
They see Matilda Bay and a runner walking together, and they decide to follow them around because they figure Matilda's got the spoon going on. But for those about to be scissor sisters, I am here to inform you, sorry, she didn't make the cut. No, she sucked her until she became a Muppet with giant Muppet bush in the color of sweet fire bush. Well, if anything else can be held against us in the court of canon, I guess it's hot lesbian action. Colonel Kane and this other guy later find the Muppet Woman and he comments to him, now she has closed. That's the only thing that they take away from that. Closed. Closed what? She's learned to close the deal? So she's a space lesbian, so what? I guess in her case, any woman she meets, neither one of them wear the pants in their family, but I heard her space strap-on is quite adjustable. Good Lord. This film is about to be as easy and sleazy as Natasha Henstridge in Species and speaks to the beat of fuck, mate, kill, fuck, mate, kill. It doesn't really matter if it's the next scene or the next scene after, because this is going to be the very last scene you are going to see of Matilda May's boobaful self. The rest is her replaced with a Matilda knockoff that looks like a woman wearing a trash bag poncho, which I'm guessing is the best $25 million can buy, but it sticks out like a sore thumb. So while the Colonel is taking Muppet Corpse back to the research center, the guard under observation is all normal now. However, he is not held in a cell, but rather some storeroom, and is freaking the hell out. They're having the guard under observation monitoring him by stopwatch, but after the 2-hour mark he starts to tremble back into his mummy state. And literally runs and then explodes. Watching these sequences of events was about as uneventful as waiting for the popcorn kernels to burst.
The same thing is going to happen to that girl we found in the park.
Ooh, is it hot inside, as one colonel said to the other?
The same thing is going to happen to that girl we found in the park.
Gee, you think? They exploded as fast as Jiffy Pop. One of the troubling aspects of this film is how they implore these rules for thee, not for me, in terms of how these things die. They go from exploding right now to creepy crawling zombies later on. A troubling question I must ask is, has any of these writers ever seen a vampire movie before? Well, vampires aren't open-minded. And they certainly don't look like they came out of a mail-order catalog of long-term fuck buddies holding a Coke, cock, some tits, and an easy on-the-eyes smile. No. They are quick, cunning stealth hunters. Some have been known to be as fast as 50 miles per hour. That's why any human equipment cannot get a reading on their speed. The human eye nor mind cannot track their movements. They are so fast that you blink an eye and they are nowhere to be found, or just right behind to bite your ass. As far as strength goes, well, let me ask you this question. How much torque would it take to rip a car door off the hinges or stop a moving car or trailer dead in its tracks? They're 10 times as strong as the normal person. If you want to boast in the gym that you can lift 100 pounds, well, a vampire can lift up to 1,000 pounds. Think about it, Canon. You know, the more I think about it, Canon, it seems to me this new Golan and Globus ownership never outgrew its 70s softcore porn era. It seems to me their specialty, Canon, is turning people on, then tuning people in. So the corpse of the woman that was drained in the park is later strapped down in an autopsy table with 1,000 different fucking instruments as she begins convulsing now. The amount of seizures in this film is causing hilarious chaos as the instruments that are hooked up to her start going off the charts, beeping and fucking explodes. They ought to put a caution warning in the subtitles saying, "Caution, plot may explode without warning." That has to be the most unproportionate body I've ever seen in my life, with a head so tiny, body so large, and their hips so freaking wide. Honestly, I think the costume designers needed to read up on some human anatomy books before constructing that thing. They recovered the escape pod from the Churchill in Texas. I got a question. Where is the reality escape pod? I think Cannon's comes equipped with a crack house after all the doobie and free love everyone is taking in today. They open up the pod to find the spaceman Steven just chilling in there now with a huge beard. However, we don't get a sense of just how much time has passed in this film. So if he's just sitting there, just smoking, thinking, trying to free his mind, well, why didn't he just free himself up from the hatch? Well, did they have to open it to retrieve his lazy ass? When they returned to London, Steve recalls how the Churchill ended up, how it did, and how did the creature survive the shuttle fire. He's afraid that no one is going to believe him. Well, trust me, boss, we have seen bigger breasts than a Thanksgiving turkey, as well as more than enough generous portion of legs and thighs. I'm surprised we are not at KFC. Because it's been finger-licking interesting. Steve explains that the space vampires wreaked havoc by draining the crew right and left until they felt the only way to stop them was by igniting the oxygen systems, and the radio operator damaged the radio equipment, which was why there was no record of its crash. Here is where, during the flashback scene, that it changed the rules of these creatures that is even more confusing as the first. Astronaut Steve explains how the space creatures drained all the crew of their life force that changed them into their Muppet corpse forms. Well, they came back, as we have seen with other corpses already featured. How come they didn't explode as well? If those vampires were indeed isolated for so long, they would be feeding off them collectively, but not in such a way as to want them to turn. How do they control who comes back as one? If they were draining them a little just to sustain themselves until they reached Earth, that for the process of elimination, they would still be alive. This is not accurate. Stop contradicting yourselves. How did we evolve from space aliens to 28 days later on, where there is a massive zombie horde coming down on London? Come on, zombies consume flesh. Vampires drink blood. Zombies don't have blood in the conventional sense. It's more like brown to black sludge with no life-sustaining qualities. Vampires would not know how to drink zombie sludge, much the same way we humans are not powered by drinking battery fluid. If a vampire was bitten by a zombie, he would require real blood to sustain the wound to heal from, but it would not be fatal, nor would it turn one. Come on, writers. Vampires are immune from disease or injury. So what now? Vampires have now become the mosquitoes of rising up the undead? While Spaceman Steve lays down for a little nappy time, an object 150 miles long heading towards Earth from Halley's Comet in the shape of a giant space penis coming to penetrate Earth? I am confused, Canon. Is this the Spaceman Steve's wet dream sequence again? Someone send our horn dog a Valium. More like a psychic wet dream from Matilda. Well, if we are grading sex instead of cinema today, then I give her an F for bad form. No one likes fast women. Yet Spaceman Steve wakes up screaming and sweaty. You serious? You have to have this imagination of reliving hot-blooded sugar sex magic, and you wake up screaming like a bitch? She's the most tender, loving, and horny person you'll ever meet, and already you want to bail? What the hell, man? She's a unicorn that wants you in a very good way. There is to be a person. It is revealed that Spaceman Steve has a psychic connection. Now the movie has completely gone off the rails because in addition to having a psychic connection, she is now a shapeshifter in addition to being a vampire. In actuality, by using her life force, she pretty much acts as almost like a surrogate mother that connects with others who are infected. So you mean to tell me that there is an interconnected network of these soul-sucking, French-kissing space swingers out there? Where do you find your inspiration, Canon? Was this screenplay written in a toilet stall complete with a tube sock and hand lotion? In case all of you suddenly came down with blood to your brain and your feet are feeling a little heavy, finding it hard to walk down this lost highway of continuous plot roads that take you like a sucker for a dead end, we have more surprises available. Apparently, the Matilda we didn't see wasn't the real Matilda because her real body is hidden somewhere and she is just inhabiting other people and absorbing her energy to fully bring her back to life. Here's to all the people in the world that deal with dummies on a regular basis. That's when Dr. Death notices another phallic-looking artichoke approaching Earth. As he admits, well, this isn't the first time that space vampires have visited Earth. Canon, your cleavage is getting out of control again. So, they admit Spaceman Steve to the psychiatric hospital, which is headed by none other than Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the one and only Patrick Stewart. You folks might want as well to go to warp 1, engage into the next scene, because when this fail is so strong in this one facepalm is not enough. So basically, the two ministers of state, Winslow and Kane, want Steve to demonstrate how to establish a psychic connection by literally beating it out on and all over a woman who is a complete masochist for S&M sex.
I want to ask you about the man you spent the afternoon with, Ned Price.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you do.
See your hand. You're in there, aren't you? Tell me.
No!
It's gone from her. It's in another body now. Despite appearances, this woman is a masochist. Were you in there? Were you there?
I didn't know I was psychic until I recently started having visions of myself kicking you in the head cannon. Boy, they sure like to take the absurd right up your ass, don't they? Basically, this whole sexual psychic exorcism was to identify where Matilda had gone to sin next. So, by the time Steve lip-locks, they already ID'd the next person she is with, which is some heavyset dude with a giant birthmark on his face. Patrick Stewart claims he knows the patient as being in solitary confinement for being guilty of being naughty. How could he? This dude has the IQ of a child of 4. Child murderer, yes. Sexual deviant, oh hell no. He doesn't always feel like he's at the top of the gene pool in this movie, but when he does, I can guarantee you'll find him at the Walmart. That place where you see people with shopping carts full of Coca-Cola and chips, wearing jeans and t-shirts, 3 sizes too small, with his ass crack hanging out.
May I have that?
Oh, I'll wake him up.
What are you doing?
Stay where you are.
He's sick! Lampson, help us! I can't explain now!
Seriously, he has to be the only person in the psychiatric hospital or any other patient in this film period who has any sort of medical ethics.
There's our killer, Sir Percy.
You want me to draw? How much medication you want to give me? Honestly, I'm afraid there's a big difference between Doctors Without Borders and Doctors Without Boundaries in this movie. As they try injecting him with the sedative, they were trying to prove it was him in her, but that point was never really clear. If Matilda was there, she would know everything always. We get a strange psychic tug-of-war. Spaceman Steve is switching from being in the patient, but now he's in the doctor.
Armstrong, can you hear me?
It's oh so much to swallow.
Armstrong! Can you see what it is that's holding you prisoner? Tell her she has to talk to me.
Aren't these vampires who crave hot oral sex enough?
There's no need for that. No need.
You don't need telepathy and an insane asylum. That's what American Horror Story is for. Leave it to the trained professionals, Cannon.
Listen, you bitch. I'll keep you in the state for weeks if I have to.
Carson, be with me.
What do you want from me?
I love you.
A fucked up scene worth boasting for is when Picard was touched by a vampire. They try to strap him down to extort some information out of him, but all they get was him talking like the space chick.
Why are you so human? So perfect.
Our bodies are unimportant. As you and your men have approached in your ship, we change them. For you.
Hey, whether he is playing a Frenchman with a British accent or one whom has a love of tea, ancient history, and Shakespeare, no one questions a thing. That's why he's awesome.
Into your minds and found there new bodies. I took my shape from your mind.
He sings like a canary. May I mention, this was the first on-screen kiss by Patrick Stewart, but yet Spaceman Steve is so turned on by the fraction of consciousness of the space goddess that he makes out with Captain Picard.
You let me go! Let me go!
He's getting tractor beamed into him. To the blood oozing out of a Las Vegas papier-mâché-looking Patrick Stewart prop head forming into the space girl as it bursts into blood clots. Ha! This movie could have been given the AstraZeneca vaccine and it still would have been hit by a meteorite.
Why? Why?
That's where Steve has a confession to make, as he was the one who erased the Churchill's flight recorder tapes, because he didn't want anyone to know that she was establishing a connection with him. Well, for one to talk like that, he sure must have had the biggest heat-sinking missile to fly her to the moon.
She took some of my energy. And she gave me some of her energy. I survived. She wanted me to survive.
It really makes me wonder if the original casting couch came out of this movie. I mean, just really, how many cast members did Matilda have simulated sex with her? How were they able to sell her on this role? Okay, Matilda. We've got to make sure we have this whole scene nailed down. The chemistry has to be real. This is your first movie. This is how they do it in Hollywood. We got to bang this. Give us some heat. Steve claims she drained some of his energy, but gave some of her in returns because he thinks he's the chosen one. You kidding? You're just another anorexic gigolo to her, just like the others. Nothing but skin and boners. Seriously, how did we get from having this feeling of wanting sexual healing with thundering and lightning, the way you love me is frightening, to marital martial law at the end of the movie, where London is overrun by these half-zombie people that are sucking people's life force as their souls are being beamed up to a spaceship? Canon, you cut all of your George A. Romero version of London Has Fallen that I would have wanted to see. Instead, we're stuck in your porno theater watching Born to be Wild, Buck Naked and Free. Now, the troubling signs of detection of anyone infected is watching for anyone wiping sweat off their forehead with their handkerchief.
Regarding the object in space, which is bearing down on the Earth at this moment.
Yes, gentlemen. Look, if you'll excuse me just for a moment.
Oh, this is giving me annoying pangs of conscience, and I'm sure since the cure is probably worse than the disease, that a more qualified studio would have made more money by prescribing a rewrite for this. So, Colonel Carson and Kane go to see the Prime Minister, but it looks like he has shown he has flavor. They then make way to a helicopter as a couple of zombie guards are pursuing them, as they have an odd, unique way of abolishing the zombies in a process of slowing down and exterminating.
Lieutenant, do you have any weapons aboard the craft? No, sir!
Huh? It's just when we think we're heading down the road of New Hope Boulevard, we always find a path to a dead end.
Sir, while you were with the PM, I had a call from base operations. The city is now under martial law. We've been placed under NATO command.
NATO?
They're then ordered by the army to land because they got a quarantine going on. And if they don't land, they are going to get shot down.
Come away from the aircraft! You're under quarantine!
I suppose after their decontamination, hand sanitizer bath, they have to be dried off in toilet paper in order to be cleared for battle. Nice to know the army was enacting social distancing by yelling at Colonel Carson and Kane for standing 2 feet instead of the mandated 6 feet apart.
Don't come any closer! Stop there!
Is Dr. Hans Fallada here from the SRC? He knows who we are and what's going on.
No, not that I know of. Has anybody heard of him?
No.
Yet there is a fence that separates the soldiers from Carlson and Kane. I wonder if the Army's tool of measuring distancing was telling them if you can smell our farts, you need to be further away. Oof. Lay off those K rations, boys. If that is a fence, it looks like chicken wire that you can buy at Michael's Arts and Crafts, until Colonel Carlson pecks it down with a little bit of his cock-a-doodle-foo.
Incubation period appears to be 2 hours, and until that time has elapsed, I cannot release you from this compound.
Colonel, we know what the plague is. We are not infected.
Oh. The military informs them that they have surrounded all of London, and they will have the whole place cleared due to thermonuclear detonation in 3 hours.
Have you heard anything about the ship?
Corporal Adams,
The ship? The thing from Haley's Comet.
Oh. Thermonuclear, huh? An invention to end all inventions when Cannon drops the clown bomb. Oh. That's until Spaceman Steve solves everything and utilizes his master of smartass to clear the path to the main plot in the film.
All those little blue lights going up toward the clouds. They're human souls. Conversion releases a life energy, and then it can be collected. Energy doesn't go free. It goes up there. She wants back the energy she gave me.
He gives the soldier a pop quiz as if he can identify an alien ship. The soldier must be a cook who is compensating for smaller genitals when there was a big spotted USS Bratwurst flying over Earth ranging 150 miles long.
We only have an hour and a half.
It's a cross between a schlong and an artichoke. I haven't decided yet. Stephen says that the blue dots are actually souls whom life forces are being sucked from the surviving citizens of London and being transported to the top transmitter of the artichoke. If Matilda was a baseball player, she certainly would lead the major leagues and SBIs. You know, souls batted in. Colonel Steve Carlson feels drawn to Matilda because apparently she wants the energy that she gave to him. How many times is this chick going to take the day off the whole fucking movie just so she can stop, drop, and spread them? So while Colonel Carlson is off to broker another perfect intergalactic space orgasm, Colonel Kane is in full pursuit of Dr. Death, mowing down zombies, turning their brains from mush into mulch. Suddenly, it's turned into the set of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Colonel Kane goes back to the lab and finds Dr. Death overlooking the landscape of London burning as someone made out with a zombie.
I've been doing some more work.
If you guys don't sweat it, then you don't get it, because Dr. Death is absolutely drenched. That's not sweat, that's just a sign of self-defecating humor.
Oh, I seem to sense it.
Colonel Kane meets up with Dr. Death, who says it's his belief that the vampires of legends, such as Dracula, originated from these space vampires. The liver is great, but the problem is he continues to lecture about how he impaled the male vampire on the table, too. Come on, you're canon, where the motto is, talk is cheap, let's bring the heat. If indeed the energy center is 2 inches below the heart, which is the key to kill him, how come we, the audience, couldn't have made that discovery with him? This accomplishes nothing but souring the protagonist's motivation and discovering a new skill to achieve their objective. You certainly rained down on a perfectly gripping action horror sequence, Cannon. Have you no heart? We return back to London, and things get batshit crazy in a hurry. In a legitimate laugh-out-loud scene, a whole city on fire with enough blue light streaks flying all over the place, human sacrifices, zombies, and people at each other, mass hysteria. Apocalypse, with vividly funky streams of spectral energy grooving on a sexy 80s Ghostbusters tune, is how I'd like humanity to go out. Carlson finds Matilda as she reveals it was his destiny the whole time to find her and lead her to Earth.
Now can this madness end?
Or more like the female praying mantis, here soulfully devouring the male within minutes after mating. All the while, the humans prefers to stretch out the sex for over a lifetime. I think planet Earth got hoodwinked. Meanwhile, Colonel Kane and his sword and the stone are slaying through hundreds of thriller zombies. Then Kane meets up with one of our Tommy Hilfiger model vampires, comes into view.
It'll be much less terrifying if you just come to me.
Revved up like a deuce, but just another dumb ass in the night. He talks the talk, saying it will be less terrifying if you come with him if you want to live.
I'll do just that.
His 80s tough guy mannerisms are no match from the Sword of Shut Up. Now him and his Mick Jagger looking bro from earlier may have started up an apocalypse on their expense and not to the benefit of ours, so that's why we don't get no satisfaction from his cheap tongue and cheap bravado. Save that sass for Project Runway, honey. I guess we can't always get what we want in a canon film. We get back to the cathedral where Carlson is grilling Matilda as to what's happening.
The web of destiny carries your blood and soul back to the genesis of my life form.
Huh? Canon? If you're asking for a soul seeker to harvest and store their energy of life force as if it was deducting the balance from a checking account, then clearly you need a tangible person to be able to take over their body. It's kind of important in these demon possession exorcist type movies. Oi. The ever-changing rules of the story are about as flimsy as a 3-hour WWE Raw taping. So now she is some sort of hot chick that he downloaded from his brain and created her after having a 1-minute amazing tantric moment. So while they're keeping up intergalactic relations, Colonel Cockblock shows up to throw a little verbal cold shower into the heat of the moment by calling out Wilson's name like 30 times. But he's too distracted as he's all snug deep within the land of the Grand Tatas. Kane then tosses the sword down to Wilson for a one-handed grab. Wow, all that self-loathing and self-love throughout the movie of this wet dream must have really improved his dexterity. He's good with his hands, ladies. So he catches himself while he's falling in love until he impales her, but miscalculates the angle as he impales himself too. Sacrifice? See, this is what happens when you hate your audience. But since you're in the creative industry, you're looking for an economically feasible way to end the film, you take the coward's way out. I mean, freedom of speech and freedom of expression is cool, but in this case, shut the fuck up, Canon. It would have had a lot more emotional impact if we had a better idea of the situation at hand. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's safe to say, due to Tobe Hooper's personal problems with drugs, he was going through a hard stretch at this point in his career. This is a perfect example of a canon type of movie where a director is given more resources than they should have been. True, Tobe Hooper had previous success with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, but those film budgets varied. Even though he had creative freedom as well, he also had great script material to work off with, which he translated to a more cohesive product that we don't see in this film. The audio quality, visual effects, and stunt work is magnificent in more ways than one. I just feel that with the structure of the story that was presented to Mr. Hooper had too many threads and loose ends in the story that don't go anywhere. You felt you had too many subplots that went off the beaten path, left Tobe Hooper thinking, am I going to go this way or that way? Oh, okay. That didn't do the film justice. Let me just get back on the main trail here. However, time was ticking, and there wasn't enough time to connect the plot dots properly together. What Hooper lacked in story, he did make up for in the gore, in a sense, to give the film brutality where it lacked, but still had that Looney Tunes vibe to it. The whole tone of it was bouncing off the walls. Tobe Hooper may have been okay with it, but it certainly left the average film goer thinking, what the fuck did I just watch? So maybe the problem with the film lied in the negotiating for time of certain scenes they're going to pay more attention to. I think as a result, they run behind schedule as well as money. There you have it, folks. LIfeforce. It's not perfect. I think a different director, a different cast with a more refined and sensible adaptation of a vampire novel could have added more to it. It comes off dull in some places, but makes up for it as an okay average film that's not without its charm. Now, if you like bare butts and you cannot lie, then join us next time as we open up Bottle of Action, Bronson Mania. Up in this bitch is Charles Bronson stars in the slasher hybrid film 10 to Midnight. It's full of gratuitous shots of dead naked women that even Ted Bundy would be stark, raving, buck-naked mad about. Even if Charles Bronson wore a skirt and acted in a light-hearted romance, he would still be the baddest mofo ever, and there is nothing you can do about it. This is Carlo Fioretta reminding you all to stay healthy, my friends.
Cannon Films presents an outstanding lineup of films for major filmmakers, major stars, major motion pictures.